Hello everyone, James from Junkyard Fox. Thank you so much for joining me. We are out here on a desert hike. Now it is currently late spring / early summer, and a lot of these plants are fruiting, they're flowering, they're blooming. It's around that time of year where they're getting a lot of sunlight, we're getting some rain. So we're gonna take advantage of that, and we're gonna do some foraging. So for you vegetarians out there, this video is for you. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of the staple plants that we look for, and I'm going to give you guys information on them, gather some, and then we're going to cook them right up. So thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Okay, so let's begin with one of my favorite plants. Now this right here is the Ocotillo plant, and these are very easy to identify. They look like long spindly fingers growing up out of the ground, and they have spines on them, leading some people to believe that they are a species of cactus. They are in fact not a species of cactus. Now the reason we're here is for these flowers. During spring and early summer, they bloom these vibrant red, beautiful flowers, and you can consume those or you can make them into a tea, and that's what we're going to do. Now, a little bit of a side note is these spindly fingers, these limbs, the old-time ranchers used to cut them off and used to plant them because they can cultivate them and they will take root and they will grow, making something of a living fence for their livestock or for their garden. Now, we're not going to do that, but that is an interesting note for some of you homesteaders out there. You can do that. Now, let's go back to these flowers. Once again, we're going to consume them. Now, just be careful because, of course, they are flowers, so they're going to attract pollinators, such as bees. And, of course, there's going to be predators going after the bees, so there might be a spider there. So just look out. But, yeah, we're just going to gather some of these to brew. Now, you don't want to get too much of them because I've noticed that if you get a small amount, such as these, the tea will taste like chamomile. It's pleasant. Now, in case you get too much flowers, or you just put way too much in there, it's going to taste like dish soap, and it's not very enjoyable. So this is a perfect balance right here. This is what we're going to take. Okay, so time to talk about our second plant, and you've seen this plenty of times in my previous videos. This is the yucca plant right here, and there are so many uses for this particular plant. Now let's go starting from the bottom. Now, if you've seen me before, dig up the roots, shave them off, and then wet them, and you can make soap out of them. And that's what the natives would use to make shampoo, body wash, or wash their clothes. And they contain a chemical compound called saponins, and that's what makes the soap. So, good source of desert hygiene is the roots, but we're not focusing on that. Moving upwards, you see all these fibers right here on some of the dead stalks? That makes excellent tinder bundles. That makes excellent tinder to get a fire started right away. Very easy to make, very easy to gather. They're everywhere, so that's easy way to get a fire going. Now let's move up to these spikes. Now these spikes, you got to be careful because they are quite sharp at the end. But these spikes, you can cut them, you can pound them down, and the inside fibers can be made into cordage, and it makes really strong cordage. And rope is extremely underrated when you're outdoors. It helps you set up a shelter, it helps you make traps, that kind of stuff. So we've shown that previously. But today we're going to focus on the food aspect, and that's up there. You see all those bright green fruits? Now 2 months ago you saw us make a video where we cut up a stalk and we cooked it. Now if you leave the stalk alone and you let it grow, it'll flower into these brilliant white flowers, and they are edible as well. In time, those flowers become these fruits. And we're going to gather some of these fruits and we're going to bake them. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. These fruits are some of my least favorite desert food. I particularly do not like them. But you know what? They're not running away. So you don't have to go through all the trouble and expenditure of energy and calories trying to catch a rabbit. When they're with these, you could just gather. So we're going to gather a couple of these fruits and we're going to bake them up. Okay, just look for a fruit that doesn't seem to have any holes in it from bugs or anything like that. Just give it a couple of twists. You could use your knife as well, but you don't necessarily need to. Pop that open, and there we go. Now, I'm not going to be greedy with them because, of course, the wildlife depends upon these foods. We don't necessarily need to, but I'm just going to take about 2 of them. Couple of twists. There we go. So moving on to our next plant, and it's the most abundant plant out here, the prickly pear cactus. Now, you've seen us use this plant for a lot of things, particularly a food source, but longtime viewers will know that you're able to use one of these pads, a larger, fatter one, hollow it out, fill it with water, and you can boil that water to make an improvised drinking container. Now, right now, once again, we're focusing on the food aspect of things. Now, during springtime, they start to bloom, such as this one. And then they'll open up, such as this one. This bright yellow flowers, very beautiful. Now, these flowers are edible. Let me take a little petal. Largely tasteless. I'm not a big fan of flowers. Give those a couple of weeks, and say next month we're gonna have these dark purple fruits called dunas, and those are delicious. Probably my favorite plant-based food out here. You just burn off the hairs, the little small thorns, and you can cook them up, eat them, and they're good to go. Now, once again, it's early for that season, but another source that we have is the small pads. These are larger pads. Obviously, they're older, but during springtime, they start sprouting these little small ones. I'll show you those in a little bit, and we're going to gather a couple of them, roast them up, and we're going to cook them up and eat them. Okay, so that's a large pad. Now, notice at the top, you have this little small one right here. And we're going to take that one. Once again, the younger, the more tender it is. That's just the basic universal law of all kinds of food. So we're going to just take this one. Now you see all these thorns are already starting to grow. Normally we wanted to film this video about 2 weeks ago before these thorns started growing, but we had a lot of winds and they were messing with our audio, so we had to wait. But you could just get a couple of rocks, give this a twist, and there we go. And we're going to gather about 3 of these, and we're just going to roast them up to make sure that all the small thorns are gone. Notice my hand right here has a couple of these already. Yes, we're gonna get about 3 of them and roast them right up. Okay guys, so we are running out of sunlight, so we got to make this fast. Now our water is boiling for our Ocotillo tea. Now we have our second container, and we're going to place our yucca fruits in here. Place the lid, and we're going to bake them. We're going to place them in the heat. Now, ideally we would want a lot more coals, but right now we're running out of light, so we're going to have to work with what we got. It won't take too long. We just want to soften them up because they're very fibrous. But we're going to leave them in there for about 20 minutes. Okay, so we're getting, in the meantime, our water boils and our yucca bakes. We're going to start getting these cactus, and using these rocks, we're going to start scraping off the thorns. Now, don't worry, you don't have to scrape everything off. Just try to get what you can, and the fire will do the rest. But whatever's visible, try to knock it out. You know, the more you're careful about these, the better, because you don't want to eat this and it gets, you know, you get these spines on your tongue or your fingers. That's going to be very unpleasant. So try to get what you can for now. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. We have a rolling boil. Let's get our cup out of there. And then time to place our Ocotillo flowers in there. Let them steep for a little bit. So I removed a lot of these. Now some of them are still gonna be, like some of the spines still stay because of the stickiness of the cactus. That's where we place them onto the coals. And the coals will begin roasting them and burning off these glochids. And we just gotta turn them around here and there. There we go. Okay folks, so we turned the cup the other way around, upright, and the yucca is still baking in there. I just wanna make sure that it's soft. It's probably already ready to go. In the meantime, we did turn our nopales in the coals a little bit, and I did scrape them off with the rock. So I'd say these are pretty good. I did rinse them, by the way, because they were all ashy. So these are pretty good to go. And then of course we have our Ocotillo tea right here. And the tea should have already cooled off. It's already been about 15 minutes. So, sun is setting, we gotta make this fast. So, time to eat. I need some prickly pear cactus pad. Not bad. We didn't season it this time. It just tastes like cactus. I don't know how better else to describe it. Somewhat like cucumber, like a hot cucumber. Largely tasteless. So not too bad. But you want to stick to the younger ones because they're far more tender. They're not going to be so fibrous. So that's what I like about all these. These are all very easily, I mean, they could just rip apart so easily. That's how they look on the inside. Not my favorite, but they'll do. All right, and now for our tea. Should be cooled off by now. Yeah, very subtle. I feel like it tastes like chamomile to me. Just a very gentle, subtle tea. But yeah, Ocotillo. Okay, so these fruits have been cooking for about 20 minutes. I'd say they're just about ready. We just want to soften them up because they're quite fibrous, they're quite stiff. And there we go. Let them cool off a bit. Okay folks, so we gave them a couple of minutes to cool off. I don't want to burn my mouth, so moment of truth. Not my favorite, not at all. But it's far more palatable now that you cooked it, and it's a lot more softer, it's mushier, as opposed to when you eat them raw. It is possible to eat them raw. All these foods are possible to eat raw, but trust me, they're gonna be a lot more enjoyable and a lot easier to digest when they're softer. And these are the seeds that I'm talking about. These seeds right here, they look like corn kernels. These are all mushy because they've been baking, but normally they look like corn kernels. And they're largely tasteless, and they're very soft. Now give them a couple of months and these will turn black, and they will harden, and obviously they become seeds. You can crush those up and make them into a flour substitute. We will be doing that later on this year. But yeah, normally I like to just eat the seeds and dispose of the outer shell, the leathery outer shell. But yeah, all this stuff, very much like corn. It's just the outside that's the leathery cover that's just really unenjoyable. But yeah, all this stuff inside, a lot better. Let's try another one. break it apart. An even better example. The seeds are a lot more together on this one. And check it out. Don't they look like albino corn kernels? Not too bad. Honestly, not too bad. If you leave out the outer shell, eat the insides, it's pretty good. Alright guys, so that's about the conclusion of this video. We better get a move on. The sun is setting. Just wanted to give you guys a brief summary of the plants that are edible out here during springtime, summertime. So once again, we have yucca fruits. Once again, not my favorite. The outside is pretty gross, but the inside, the fruits, the little kernels, they look like corn. They're pretty largely tasteless and they're pretty enjoyable. So yucca, it's everywhere. Right now it's quite abundant. Then of course we have prickly pear cactus pads. Now these are all nice and roasted because I don't want to get thorns in my mouth. But nopales, traditional meal here in the Southwest. And then of course we have our Ocotillo tea. Now these are by far not the only plants edible at this time of year. These are just some of my favorites, and there will be others coming on later on. Like I said, the cactus, they will, in a couple of weeks, the flowers will become fruits, and the fruits are very delicious. And there's other fruits, other types of cactus as well, like cholla cactus and stuff like that are also edible. We will be touching upon those later on. Also keep in mind, as I said earlier, the seeds of the yucca later on will darken up. They will become black and they will harden up, and they become seeds, obviously. Those, they can be crushed down, pounded down, and be made into a flour substitute to make something like bread, that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping to do that sometime around August. So fingers crossed we'll have that done. And that's about the conclusion of this video, guys. So if you enjoyed it, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions, anything like that on these foods, go ahead and comment down below. And keep in mind that all these plants that we've shown, they each have their own specific video. So we'll post our playlist at the end that has all our desert edible playlists, so you can gain more information. And that's about it for this video, guys. We have a great time coming out here. So if you enjoyed it, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Once again, comment below if you have any questions, and we'll see you guys next week with another video. Now go outside and get your boots dirty.